Hello and welcome to another episode of Becco Movies. We'll talk in this episode about the three main Zack Snyder DC movies, which is Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder Justice League. Just to kind of change it a little bit, not just to mention the positives, and there are a lot of the positives about these movies, obviously. I'm sure there are a lot of other YouTube videos talking about these issues. I've spoken about some of it. I'll save that for future videos, etc. But let's talk about some of the things that maybe could have been done differently so that there would be less crying from the man children out there and the Marvel fans and everyone who wanted the DCEU, aka the Snyderverse, to fail, basically. Because as I've mentioned before, I've never seen a movie franchise gets bullied, literally bullied, like the Snyderverse franchise, like DC at that time, especially Snyder's franchise. So let's start with Man of Steel. Because we don't want to be one of these, people who just kind of mention the positives. How about I'm not going to call them the negatives, that the things that I would have changed maybe or done differently. So with Man of Steel, which is basically around, 2.5 hours movie, it had some, what people might call controversial moments. I'll just try and focus on the important ones. For me, one of the things that it's not annoyed me personally, but I maybe would have done it differently, is the time jumps, which is, I know it's something that Christopher Nolan, who's the one who wrote the movie, I think produced the movie as well, and chose Zack Snyder to direct it. He kind of introduced in this movie with David Goyer, who is another person who wrote the movie. It was a little bit distracting, to be honest, in the movie itself. Maybe I would have done it differently, just like a straight linear story, which I know something that Christopher Nolan hates, which one of the things I don't like about Christopher Nolan is the time jumps. It can be entertaining, but if you do it a lot, it can be confusing. The older Clark Kent, younger Clark Kent, older Clark Kent, etc. So maybe I would have just done it linear, whatever. It's not a big deal, but linear is much easier to follow, especially if it's your first movie. You don't want to be gimmicky in the first movie. You do it later on. You know what I mean? Once you get the fans on board and the general audience. I mean, another one basically, which is mentioned a lot, I might have mentioned as well in previous videos, is the Park Kent, which some people describe as kind of, I think, 2 or 3 main controversial moments, which was played by Kevin Costner perfectly. And even the mother, Diane Lane, they were both perfect, even age-wise, etc. Anyway, when Kevin Costner told Clark Kent about the school bus incident, maybe you should have let them die. I mean, basically, he was just worried about his son. That was one of the reasons that he said that. But again, maybe not to put these controversial moments in the first movie. Like I said, for me, it's not controversial. I understand why it's happened. He was protecting his son. He didn't want his secret identity to be exposed. He didn't want him to be taken from him. As far as we know, the Kents don't have any kids or children, so this was their only son, basically, etc. So it's just the way that the line was said, maybe. But he said maybe. He didn't say, yeah, why not? Just let the bastards die. You know what I mean? It was a fine line, but maybe do it differently. And the other one that most people talk about is the death scene when he died in the tornado. Instead of letting Clark Kent, which is Henry Cavill, play the character, the actor, save him. Again, I didn't see that moment as very controversial, but again, I've always liked the Park Kent, well, if you're gonna kill him, dying from heart attack kind of scene, or maybe change it, not kill it. But when you do the heart attack scene, I think they did it in the older Superman movie with the older actor, Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner movie. That one's better because it shows Superman as vulnerable, that he can't save his family, whatever he does. Although, again, in the older movie, he could have gone back in time. Anyway, taking them to a hospital. Anyway, let's not get into details. Like I said, you can be nitpicky with any movie if you think about it. But maybe I would have just let the heart attack scene plays out. That would be like a good, straightforward, I am Superman, but I have no control over death, all this stuff. Because once you put it in the hurricane scene or tornado scene, people will say, well, he could have saved him, could have done it like... he could have used super speed and all this stuff. So maybe that could have been done differently. Or, anyway, we can't do anything about these things, but that's the whole point of this video, just to mention some of the scenes that could have been done differently. And one of the I'm going to focus on the very extremely controversial moments, is the Metropolis damage. Again, I think that was explained very clearly by Snyder, etc., that this is his first day as Superman, almost his first day as Superman. He doesn't even know how to fly properly, and he's fighting a person who is a general, who's, again, if you think about it, it's his first day using his superpowers on planet Earth, so both of them are just large forces of nature, and that's why you would expect this damage. But again, considering the whole, America went through 9/11 and all the bad things that happened around the world in the past, maybe, again, do it differently. I know even the Avengers did it in their movies. Nobody said anything. They just addressed it later on in Captain America Civil War. But what I'm trying to say is, I mean, you can have cool scenes with destruction, all the stuff, empty buildings and all the... Once you start kind of, killing civilians, and the way that they presented when the skyscrapers were falling down, it kind of gave a lot of 9/11 vibe. But again, I have no problem with that. That's absolutely fine. It's just a movie. These are, fictional characters, fictional events. But maybe not to do it in the first movie so suddenly. And you can always have damage to infrastructure and people dying. And you don't have to present it this way. You know what I mean? Again, it was a cool scene, cool action. Nobody can argue about that. And I think that's one of the final ones. Is basically, of course, Superman snapping Zod's neck. I mean, look, and I think this is now much clearer. Again, at the time, I wasn't bothered, couldn't care less, but people was talking about it so much, it's like, what's the problem? I mean, he doesn't have the same moral code as Batman, where he shouldn't kill and all that. Again, we're talking about canon, and these things change in comics. But the point is, he had no option than to kill Zod, and he even said, we're not going to stop. Whether it's him or his followers, although they were sent to the Phantom Zone, he said, we're not going to stop. And I think they will bring him back at some point, because they are still in the Phantom Zone. I mean, Zod is dead, obviously, but we still have his body as Doomsday. Anyway, so the point is, maybe, I mean, if you put a gun to my head or something, I would have done it differently, as in, I don't know, knock him unconscious or find a way to take him to the Phantom Zone. Again, he's an amazing actor, unless he didn't want to come back for part 2 and save him for future movies. Did you have to kill him? And I think Christopher Nolan even mentioned that. Some people say Goya wrote it. Some people say, no, Snyder inserted on it. Who knows and who cares? It's a 10-year-old movie, and these are fictional characters. Remember that, people. But the point is, maybe you could have sent him to the Phantom Zone. I mean, for me, it's not about not killing him. Fine, he can kill him. And now we know why he killed him, so that he can develop the no-kill rule in his future movie, which was supposed to be Christopher McQuarrie with Henry Cavill. And I think he kind of alluded to that. He said in the beginning of the movie, we'll see what Superman is about. And I think some people guessed that it's going to be about Zod's death, and that's why he's a different kind of Superman now. He's not going to kill anyone. Even if he has to find another way to save people, etc. So, like I said, this is one of the most controversial moments. That's why I'm trying to spend some time on it. I think maybe send him to the Phantom Zone and hit him or something, drop him unconscious. I don't know, man. It's better than doing this in the first movie, especially at the end of the first movie, of a character that a lot of man-children, whether we like to admit it or not, and the general audience consider as hopeful, optimistic, and all this stuff. So maybe you could have saved it for future movies. You know what I mean? Like where Superman has to kill someone despite the no-kill rule, and he feels guilty about it or whatever. Anyway, I think I would have done it maybe differently. It's just the insistence of, whether it's Snyder or Goyer or whatever, to include that scene, and it's at the end. And then afterwards, just Superman smiling, which a lot of people wanted to see anyway, when Lois Lane says to Superman, welcome to the Daily Planet. And Superman's like, yeah, thank you, Lois, something like that. I mean, that's what people want to see at that time. And I know it's the Marvel effect. Everything has to be jokey and all this stuff. But maybe try and do it differently. And to be honest, the good thing is, I'm going to mention this very quickly, about the Flash movie, which is a horrible movie, that they show that even when you change the timeline, that you still have to kill Zod eventually to prevent him from taken over Earth. So, like I said, Superman had a point. He was trying to save that family, saving planet Earth. It's his first day as Superman. It's just including it in your first movie of a franchise that was gonna make billions and billions. It was a little bit odd. I'm not saying that these are the main reasons the movie didn't make a billion, whatever. Although it made crap loads of money. It's basically maybe not to do this in the first movie. Save them for future movies. But regardless, for me, it's one of my favorite movies. Score is amazing. Everything is perfect. You know, action, casting, and all this stuff. So that's basically Man of Steel. The second one is obviously, it's a longer movie, so it'll be longer discussion. It's going to be a longer video this time, not the usual 10 minutes video. It's Batman v Superman, which was kind of a sequel to Man of Steel, and I think we all know the story. This was supposed to be Man of Steel 2, Man of Tomorrow. I think Snyder was supposed to be directing it as well. We didn't have Macquarie at the time. And it was supposed to be presenting Brainiac and all the stuff and developing the character more. I think I've heard or read somewhere that Batman was going to show as a post-credit scene, which would have made much more sense. But of course, it's WB. They want the Warner Brothers, the studio that make these movies. They wanted to make money. So they said, nope, we need Batman because, you know, WB, whenever they run out of money, bring the Batman IP to milk it for more and more money. Especially after Tim Burton's and Christopher Nolan Batman movies, which made a lot of money and made the character very popular and profitable as merchandise. So they had to introduce Batman. Fine. But the problem is, and look, for me, that's why I love the movie. I'm not saying this is a criticism, but maybe I would have changed it. Again, it's not Snyder's fault. It's WB's fault. There was so much Batman in this movie. This felt like a Batman movie. I know it's people say, no, it's Man of Steel sequel. Well, it's kind of a... It's not a team-up movie, but it's an ensemble movie. It's basically Captain America Civil War, but we all know that Captain America Civil War ripped off this idea from Batman v Superman. So the point is, it feels like a Batman movie. And again, it's the best Batman movie. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne and Batman. But it didn't feel like a Man of Steel 2 movie. And I think hopefully we'll get that very soon. So like I said, it's not criticism, it's just, it's very Batman heavy movie. In addition to that, basically it's the Superman effect as well. Again, if you know Henry Cavill, which is who's the actor who played Superman, by the way, he's a very funny guy. He's very kind of smiley. If you look at his interviews or watch them, everyone loves him in his interviews. The guy is really funny. No, he's very serious, but he's got this kind of dry sense of humor, which is very good. Maybe in this movie, try to introduce the bright, colorful Superman, but again, in a good way, not campy, not comedic. Just focus on the optimistic part, not him brooding all the time and watching the news and all this stuff. And again, I didn't mind it. I'm just saying that things that would have pushed this movie to make $1 billion, because sometimes whether we like it or not, you have to kind of appease to the man-children out there. You know, you need these people to watch movies. You need general audience to watch movies, to take their kids, especially in the first few movies of a franchise. So maybe a little bit more optimistic, you know, Superman and all this stuff. Let him smile to the camera once. You know how these idiots are. Although he smiles, by the way. But like I said, we are trying not to give the haters any excuses when they watch these movies. So maybe a bit more like make Metropolis. And by the way, there are 2 Turkish Airlines ads. I highly suggest, I advise people to watch them, which is the Bruce Wayne one and the Lex Luthor Turkish airline ads on YouTube. They are still there. And it shows Metropolis being being built and all this stuff by Lex Luthor. And the same thing with Gotham being a port city and being rebuilt. It just kind of to give more idea about what's happening in these cases, why these characters going through these phases. What was I saying? Oh yeah, about Superman. So show Metropolis as more of a brighter city. I know Snyder wanted them to be close to each other, so you can't obviously have one with a shiny weather and the other is dark and gothic and rainy like Gotham. But that would have been helpful, to be honest. Just, you know, if you remember that image of Superman, opposite Superman. Superman is the shiny character, Batman is the dark gothic one. That would have been helpful. Just make Metropolis shine more. But if you remember some of the scenes with Henry Cavill and the actress who played Lois Lane, it was again rainy, stormy, and all this stuff. And sometimes you can't tell the difference between Metropolis and Gotham. Again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing because these cities are next to each other. It wouldn't make sense for one to be sunny, the other to be dark. But you know, with movie magic, you can get away with everything. Just make a Metropolis more rich, more powerful. Make, I think Gotham, they made it better look more kind of poor, dark, and people living in poverty and all this stuff, despite having rich people like Bruce Wayne and whatever, all this stuff. I'm trying to remember in this movie with Superman. I mean, I know he did the Zod thing, which we spoke about in Man of Steel, but again, there was good that in this case, Superman is not, you know, affecting anyone's life directly, and you know, all this stuff. I know there's the terrorist in the beginning of the movie where he flies through the wall and, you know, kind of removes him from the picture. Again, we don't know if he's dead or not. He's probably dead. Who knows? But again, just focus on these Superman saving people and all this stuff, you know what I mean? Because that's what some movie fans wants to see. And you want your movie to make $1 billion. And I think if there's some of these issues, most likely it would have made $1 billion. But as I mentioned before, this franchise was bullied to death by Marvel fans, by man children, by critics who wanted the MCU to succeed by whatever means, okay? And of course, like I said, I'm trying to focus on the relevant moments. Of course, we get to the Save Martha scene, which again, his mother's name is Martha. Superman's name is Martha. I mean, we know that from the comics, okay? I think Chris Terry, who noted that, he said both of them have the same mother's name and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they used it as a reason for the characters to stop fighting. Nobody's saying that they stopped fighting because they have the same mother's name. Because Bruce was hopeless at the time. He was a child, his parents were killed, and he became an orphan after that. Although he's very rich, he had Alfred, but again, he was orphaned, he was helpless. And his father's last word was Martha, basically. Which, if I were him, I would say Bruce, but you know. Anyway, it's Martha. That's why he felt helpless when he was talking to Superman. And the way that he said it, Save Martha, again, it's just simple things. We know now why he did it, basically, because like I said, he felt helpless, and now he finds this alien who has mother by the same name, and he's begging for him to save her life, or at least not to kill him, and save his mother's life. So it's clear why, obviously, Bruce, you know, started having a PTSD, like post-traumatic stress disorder, images of his mother dying and his father saying Martha. So then he stopped. Well, he was gonna kill Superman, but he didn't kill him. And of course, when he saw Lois Lane and she's in love with him, all these things made a difference. But I'll address what I would have done maybe differently, because again, this is one of the most annoying and controversial moments for a lot of people, although I don't think it's, you know, controversial, but whatever. That's the whole purpose of this video, to kind of be objective, talking about these movies. I would have maybe, okay, look, Batman was gonna kill him. His foot was on his face, just like in The Dark Knight Returns, by the way. This is a homage to The Dark Knight Returns, when Batman puts his foot over Superman's face. I would have let Superman say it in a different way. You know, don't kill me, save my mother, her name is Martha. I know it's more dramatic to say, save Martha, and then he thinks about his mother and all this stuff. But for me, the whole point I'm trying to say is they should have just made this alien say, in a smart way, in a quick way, because he was joking anyway, that my mother's name, my mother, the woman who raised me, is a human being from Earth, and she's gonna die unless you do something. Whatever, her name happens to be Martha, etc. I mean, the Martha moment was fine, but it wasn't essential for them to stop fighting. They could have said, look, if you're gonna kill me, but if you do that, you'll kill my mother, her name's Martha. Then you could have had a couple of moments here and there. And then, to kind of make it even more believable, I would have still let Lois Lane intervene and say, look, don't kill him, it's his mother's name. And then I would have let Bruce say, I don't care if his mother's name is it's whatever, Martha, or, you know, I don't care about this alien's mother. She could have said, look, but that's his mother from Earth. He came here at Earth when he was 3. I know I'm saying a lot of things, but you can always, with an amazing dialogue by Chris Terrio, you can make it work. Look, it's his mother. He was sent to Earth here at the age of whatever, one or a couple of days old, basically. They came here as a baby. They raised him. Please don't kill him. Lex Luthor has his mother and all this stuff. And just make it kind of a little bit more interactive, more believable, more dramatic. Because for some reason, a lot of people chose that moment and they kept going on and on and on again. Although it makes absolute sense, it's very interesting that they both have the same mother's name, Martha, which is a very popular name I've heard in America in the 1950s and 60s when these comics were written, whatever, 1930s. So, just maybe do it differently. That's all I'm saying. But again, I don't think it's as controversial, for example, as the destruction in Metropolis in Man of Steel or Superman killing Zod. I think these are more controversial moments. I'm not sure why people are stuck on the Martha moment as, oh my God, it's a controversial moment. And if you, again, put a gun to my head and say what other things you would change about BvS, or maybe you would do differently, I would say Lex Luthor. Look, Jesse Eisenberg, amazing actor, perfect Lex Luthor, especially after he shaves his head. I know he has longer hair in the comics. That's why they did it this way. I understand his character, why he hates Superman. Maybe kind of explain it a little bit more. I know he did, but again, for the man children, how dumb these people can be, etc. And some of the critics that still stuck with the Christopher Reeve Superman. With Lex Luthor, maybe less tics. For me, the thing that always annoyed me is his nervous tics. Senator, ooh. Why do you do that? I don't understand, man. Look, you're an amazing actor. Why do you do that? Again, it's not a deal breaker for me. I still enjoy the movie when I watch it. But if you look at Ben Affleck's performance as Batman, perfect. As Bruce Wayne. Henry Cavill's as Clark Kent, perfect. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, maybe cut down on the nervous tics a little bit. But the good thing is when he became properly Lex Luthor, when they shaved his head in prison, that's the menacing Lex Luthor that we want, especially after he communicated with Steppenwolf and he gave him all this information about other universes and he kind of became smarter. I mean, to be honest, in a way, that was the origin story of Lex Luthor. But again, it's just the way that he was portrayed. I've noticed some YouTubers, whether it's haters or people who love the Snyderverse, say that he was playing a little bit like the Joker. So maybe cut on the nervous tics a little bit. But regardless, BvS is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's 10 out of 10 without any shadow of doubt. Man of Steel maybe 9.5, but BvS with Ben Affleck as Batman, perfect. Absolutely perfect. And the third one, of course, is Zack Snyder Justice League. Of course, this is a 4-hour movie. I'm not going to go through everything. But I've just said that. 4-hour movie. Again, it's not his fault. The poor guy Snyder, I mean, he did his best to give us this movie, and he even did the movie without getting paid. And look, he has a difficult job. I mean, he kind of introduced Cyborg in this movie. He almost introduced the Flash in this movie. I think Aquaman had a movie before this one. Same thing with Wonder Woman, Superman. And Batman had only BvS. So he had a lot of work to do. It's just the time, 4 hours, man. It's tricky. Like, even now, if they want to release it in cinema, in IMAX, can they do that? 4 hours? You know what I mean? I'm just trying to be realistic here, because I understand for some people that's not an issue, but there are people with families, there are people with whatever disabilities, where you can't sit in cinema for 4 hours, people who are busy, and you want more people to watch the movie. And I don't want to sound like WB, but maybe if you cut the movie in half, like 2 hours and 2 hours, and I think there's a good moment when Steppenwolf is fighting the Justice League in the tunnel, when he escapes. I think that would be a good moment just to finish part one. Maybe create a more of a stronger kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a contact scene, so that you can start it in the second movie. So the runtime is a little bit an issue, but again, it's not his fault. I understand that. It's just 4 hours. If you want to release it in cinema, it's tricky, man. And it's going to be an expensive ticket, so I'm just saying. The other two things that I didn't appreciate, didn't like, again, it's not huge nitpicks, and I know this is Snyder's style, is slow motion. I think it's kind of overdone in this movie. BvS was perfect. They did it perfectly when they used the slow-mo. It's a little bit too much in this movie, like the Flash scene when he saves Iris. Again, perfect scene and all the stuff. I don't mind it, but maybe less, man. I mean, it's cool. It's cool for some action scenes, but when you kind of overuse it, because you don't want to give haters an excuse. Oh, Zack Snyder, slow-mo and, music. And I'll get to the music and stuff. So maybe less slow motion. Just keep it to the cool characters, like, one scene with the Flash, one scene with Superman, one scene with Batman. Just give each of the main heroes like one slow-mo shot. Show them heroic and all this stuff. And they kind of did that at the end of Justice League when they all jumped in front of the car or in front of the Batmobile. It was a cool shot, man. It was like the Avengers shot, etc. For me, that was the most annoying thing, is the music choice. This is the one. I'm sorry, but the Aquaman scene when they start sniffing his clothes, and I get why he did that. I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate, like I said in this movie, and addressing some of the controversial moments. And the Flash scene with the music, and even Lois Lane with the songs. It's just when you put songs in the middle of the movie, even if they work, they can be a little bit distracting. Maybe leave them till the end, or just one in the middle of the movie, whatever. Because, again, I can't believe I'm saying this, one of the most annoying things about freaking James Gunn is the overuse of music. But James Gunn taste in music is crap, is shit, basically. Snyder is much better. But if you think about it, Man of Steel didn't have any songs inside it. BvS didn't have any song inside it. Like his song at the end for his, late daughter, that's absolutely understandable, absolutely fine. It's just the whole, songs in Aquaman and in The Flash, and even and I know the songs, the lyrics have relation to the scene. Maybe, like I said, just keep your movie songs free, man. Maybe you want to have like in Watchmen, when you have the song at the beginning. That works absolutely fine. Oh, sorry, I should have changed the image to Justice League. Anyway, maybe less music, man. Like, if you're gonna do the nightmare scene, I really hope he doesn't use any kind of music, even if it's an amazing, sorry, not music, songs, even if it's an amazing song, because it's either gonna work perfectly, or it will be just criticized and ridiculed to death. And we don't want that. We want the franchise to be back on its feet and making money. Save it for later movies, man. Save it for more light-hearted movies. This is where the music usually works. For example, in a Ben Affleck's Batman movie, I don't expect him to play any kind of song in his movie. Even in Christopher McQuarrie's Superman movie. So maybe songs would have been nicer. What did I want to say? Oh yeah, the aspect ratio. Again, love the movie. It would have looked amazing in IMAX. But I always say that just if you can do any more DC movies, Snyder, just do it like BvS. BvS is the perfect platform how to make your movies. Amazing score, no songs, slow motion is used perfectly, and the most important thing is the movie is shot perfectly. It's just the aspect ratio, which I understand why he did that and all this stuff. It can be a bit distracting, to be honest, when you watch the movie and you have these two dark lines on both sides of the movie. I know you can change settings in your TV to get rid of them, but it's a little bit distracting. I wonder how would this movie look when they released on cinema. I'm sure it's going to be like a full IMAX experience, but in the same way that he released a copy in black and white, why not do the same thing with the aspect ratio? Just to release a version of the movie in the same aspect ratio as BvS or Man of Steel, man. Perfect aspect ratio. It just can be a bit distracting. That's about it. For me, this is the thing that I'm not going to say controversial. I hated this moment, and I still hate it with a vengeance. One of the most popular scores of all time of Zimmer is the Wonder Woman score. It's perfect score, man. Let's be honest, people. But the way that, what's his name, Junkie XL massacred, and I use the word butchered the score. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, his Flash score in Speed of Faster Than the Speed of Light scene is perfect. His score for Dark Side and the Villain are perfect. He didn't give Justice League still a perfect score. I still want Hans Zimmer to give us like a proper Justice League score, man. You know, just like the Avengers one, something that would just you listen to all the time. Junkie XL, I'm sorry, he's mediocre as a movie composer. He's a nice guy. I've watched him in interviews. He's fine. Like, for example, Lauren Balfe, who composed the score for Black Adam, I listen to the score almost on a daily basis. Junkie XL, the way that he did the Woman score, it was just bad. I call it the Wailing Woman score. You know which parts. And they used it in so many important scenes of the movie. It is so freaking distracting. I wish it's like all the moments I mentioned so far, Man of Steel, BvS, Justice League, I don't mind. But this one, like, if I can see Snyder out, and just please rescore the movie and remove, just remove the Wonder Woman Junkie XL score. Just go back to the either Hans Zimmer or the Wonder Woman Part 1 movie score. I think it was Wolf Kriegson who did that score, who kind of worked on the, improved the Hans Zimmer score. I hated the Junkie XL Wonder Woman score in Justice League. And he's worked on Justice League, on BvS, on the Wonder Woman score. Why not use the same score again? I have no idea. Sorry guys, this is a long movie, but there are 3 long movies, especially BvS and Justice League. And the final thing, I think it's the final thing I'll mention about Justice League, is that the movie is too long. Movie is, sorry, not too long, sorry, it has too many endings. Again, I understand some of them were shot last minute, like the Nightmare scene. This is one of my favorite, you can call them, if you think about it, they are post-credit scene or whatever of all time. It's up there with Ben Affleck's scene in Suicide Squad when he talks to Amanda Waller. Perfect scene, man, with Joker and talking about Robin, and this scene in particular made me like, I want to see Justice League 2 and 3. But the thing is, they do this scene, and then you have the prologue with Cyborg, and then you do the kind of, you know, I can't remember, there was another, oh yeah, Deathstroke with Lex Luthor, when he says, I know Batman's secret identity, when Lex Luthor tells him this is Batman's secret identity, which is, you know, basically Bruce Wayne. So again, it's not his fault. I know he doesn't like post-credit scenes, and I get it, but maybe in this particular case, considering you have a 4-hour movie, you use it as maybe mid-credit scene, post-credit scene. Like, for example, the Nightmare scene would work perfectly as a post-credit. Oh yeah, and the Martian Manhunter scene. You guys see what I'm talking about. It's just too many prologues and end credit scenes, and they are not end credit scenes, but scenes, you know what I mean? Like, they are trying to end the movie and they don't know how to do it, because Snyder's just trying to finish his vision for this movie after how the studio treated him badly and all this stuff. But maybe I would have split some of them, or maybe even remove some of them, and just keep some of them as post-credit scene, especially the Nightmare scene. Maybe use Martian Manhunter as a mid-credit scene, etc. So, like I said, these are just kind of small nitpicks. I know it's a very long video, I apologize for that, but these things had to be said, because you always criticize the things you love, as I like to say. And these movies are amazing, almost perfect to me, especially BvS and Justice League, and even Man of Steel. But maybe I would have done these moments differently. You know what I mean? Just kind of just simple things, you know, the Zod's death differently, the in Man of Steel, the BvS destruction of Metropolis a little bit differently, even in Man of Steel. Just kind of these simple things, you know, the Martha moment, change it a little bit. Justice League, maybe do it as 2 parts and change the score a little bit and all this stuff. Otherwise, best comic book movies of all time. Score is perfect, acting is perfect, casting is perfect, the same thing with the cast. And like I said, I'll try and do another video where I talk about each movie and the amazing cast and the amazing movie makers behind it, you know, not just Snyder, the cinematography, the costume designs, etc. So yeah, guys, like I said, do watch these movies, buy them online, watch them on HBO Max. We don't have HBO Max in the UK, etc. We have them on a service called Sky Movies, but they are amazing movies. So do watch them and let's support the Snyderverse when it's restored. Becco Movies out.